And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. Thanks for tuning in yesterday. Hunter Mahan was great. Always fun to catch up with a 6-time winner on the PGA Tour as he looks to pursue the next phase of his career in the media world. Not playing as much golf. He played in the Masters 10 times, 3 top 10s. But on this show, we're not looking for just top 10s. We're looking for winners. And that's what we've been able to provide on this day over the last 2 weeks. Sam Burns, that was my boy. Where were we at? Like 50-1, I think, somewhere in there with Sam Burns. And then last week we came back in with Corey Connors, who wins his second Valero Texas Open. So we've got to keep it going. The trifecta, the turkey, however you want to look at it. So we're bringing our man Ryan Noonan back in with this beautiful picture in the backdrop. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, Travis. Good to be back as always. I feel like we typically do a good job at, if not getting the winner, getting pretty close in the handful of times we've done this the last couple of years. So yeah, man, I cannot wait for this one. I'm excited to unpack all of it.
This is highly anticipated. I can't remember a tournament with this much anticipation, so many storylines. Tiger's back. Watched his press conference here today. He looks good. Look, his leg probably isn't going to get much better. It comes down to walking at this point. He can still swing it. He can still hit all the shots. He's going to have to probably be really good around the greens, especially in these soft conditions, which I want to talk about with the weather coming in. But look, don't count Tiger out. I don't think many were giving him a chance in 2019, and look what happened. You got the Live boys in town, 18 of them. It should be a little spicy tonight with some of the past winners in that room with Phil and Patrick Reed kicking the aces, jersey, attire around. And so that's going to be fun. And then, of course, you've got these big names and Scotty Scheffler and John Rahm playing some pretty good golf as well. So there's just so much to consider. Where's Will Zalatoris' game at? We haven't even talked about him. JT is under the radar coming into a place where he's got some top 10s. So we'll get to that here in a second, some of our picks. I want to talk about the weather, though, Ryan. Weather doesn't look good. Thursday, all right, 86, humid. Should be okay Thursday. Friday drops to 69. 80% chance of rain, 10 to 15 miles an hour. Looks like it's probably going to get worse as the day goes on. Saturday, 53. A high of 53. 90% chance of rain, 10 to 15 miles. Oh, my God. Saturday. I mean, Tiger's got to be looking at that going, oh, are you kidding me? Sunday, 63, 60% chance of rain, 10 to 15 miles an hour. This is a big deal because I look at this and everything kind of changes, doesn't it? I mean, you got to take this into consideration. It's going to be soft conditions. I know they have the sub-air system, but Augusta's long already. They've made it longer with some of the additions on 13. Now you go soft. What are your thoughts when you see that?
The sub-air system, I think, is a good point, right? So for listeners that don't know, obviously, like most events have a sub-air under the greens. You can pull all the water out, the moisture out, gets them up and playable faster. They have it everywhere on this course. Right? They have it, keyed in on the spots where they've seen historically that the weather collects. And but to your point, like if we're going to have sustained time in which it's downpouring, like it's just tough. Yeah. We're already leaning towards distance, right? Whether it's off the tee, distance always matters. Obviously, the loft on your approach shots, being able to land and stick on the greens is going to matter here quite a bit anyway. So like we probably have to lean to higher apex, higher carry distance, even more so than just like maybe pure driving distance. Like when I look at statistics, looking like Mito Pereira, for instance, is a guy, driving distance profiles as an above average driver of the golf ball. When you look at his carry distance, he's kind of middle of the pack. So he gets a lot of roll on his drive. So like when you're looking at like apex distance or carry distance, those things, maybe we need to go a little bit more granular than we would just maybe like raw driving distance or distance in general, like we kind of talk about. So, I mean, yeah, it's just harder for the Brian Harmons of the world, or I mean, like Kisner's so far out of form, but like those are the guys that we profile typically where, they're not going to be able to nickel and dime you around here. They're just so far at a disadvantage to be able to hit, a scoring approach and, getting scoring wedges into their hand here. It's going to be harder. So it's hard to give it like right now. I don't know that we have a wave advantage per se. And as we stand and record here on a Tuesday afternoon, in terms of like morning, afternoon, maybe we'll have a better understanding of that tomorrow. We get a little bit more dialed in as we get closer, because we know like these things change all the time. And it gets harder to kind of like pinpoint. So is there a wave advantage? That's more so of how I want to look at it. Like, is there any way, we've seen that, right? We saw it a little bit at the Players come to mind a couple of years ago. We saw it even last year at Southern Hills, where there was a massive round one wave advantage. And there's some betting opportunities in that too, right? Because we have some derivatives with the Masters too. It's not just like first round leader. You can bet like finishing positions in the first round. Maybe there's some opportunities to bet into, like, say, plus money T20s based off of wave advantages. So I don't feel super confident giving any of that today, but those are out there. Yeah. I think there might be something as we kind of get dialed in on the weather here in the next 48 hours.
I was looking at some of the distances that Augusta National has played. Back in the 1980s, it was right around the 7,000 number. In the 90s, it actually dipped under 7,000. Was in the high, it was like high 6,900s, and then 2000s around 7,000, and then the 2010s hit, and then it goes up to 7,400. And then the 2020 74, 75. We'll probably be in that area, I would imagine 7,500, especially with the rain. They're going to have to be careful with that and how long that they want to play it. I thought that was kind of interesting considering all the discussion about the golf ball. But yeah, the weather's going to play into this. I agree. I think Mito Pereira is a good example of someone who likes to hit that bullet out there, let it chase out. I think of Patrick Rogers last week. We saw it, that power fade kind of chasing out. And I think it's a good segue really into the big names because, what can these guys do, right? And we'll start here with Scottie Scheffler, the defending champ, who, as we come on, is plus 650 to win. What can that guy do? Well, he can throw it way up in the air. He can hit high bombs. He can hit his medium irons way up in the air, his long irons way up in the air. We know that plays well into Augusta. Obviously, as the defending champion, he likes his place. But when you're playing as well as Scottie Scheffler, I don't care where you're playing, he's probably going to be the favorite. I mean, he's just the best player in the world. Now, Rory, he can hit high bombs. He's coming in at plus 750. John Rahm can hit high bombs. I don't know if he can hit it quite as high as the first two guys, but he's at plus 850. So we start there with the big three at this point, the new big three, because if you come on every Tuesday and it's an elevated event, those are the three names that you're talking about, whether it's just the PGA Tour or in this case, it's the PGA Tour and the LIV coming together to play Augusta. So on a Tuesday afternoon, have you lean one way or the other with these three?
Yeah, I have a lean. I want to fire at the top of the board because I do think it's just like there's just who wins here. We have a great piece up on Betsperts Golf right now in terms of trends. And actually one of the things I think is different here more so than anything. We talk a lot about like statistical modeling and like what stats matter here, any week that we get together and talk. But like I think here's a little different because like course history is sticky here. Yep. More than anywhere else, right? You have to have, we go back to Fuzzy and right 79, right? And like we have Zalatoris a couple of years ago, debut second, Spieth debut second, like so that happens. But like to get the winners, very very different. It just doesn't happen. You want to have some rounds in the bag to walk around here a little bit. So like in terms of what matters here a little bit, so we talked about distance, but like I think some trends matter here a little bit too in terms of how you've done here in the past, which is a little bit more narrative driven than we typically like to get, especially on my side, like to get, kind of in the weeds in terms of statistical modeling. But like, you have to kind of sometimes find reasons to discount or like cross people off, right? So like the Rahm thing is interesting. He's kind of slid into his own tier here price wise. Was the big three. Rahm's kind of out there around 9.5 at most spots now. A couple of weeks ago, like couldn't miss. Played pretty well at the master or at the Players while he was in there and had to withdraw. And then we know how kind of widely variable match play can be. I don't think he's far off. The interesting thing here is like, he's, I think had bookend 27s and then had a bunch of top 10s, but like, he's never really been in the Sunday smoke, right? Like and I don't think there's any reason for that. I don't think that's like, he's a bad fit for this place. We know in terms of like the elites, he's probably the best baseline putter of the group. You can make a case that maybe the temperament can sometimes be, an issue. Maybe it's not like it was years ago. Rory, like, he's talked about it. He's shouldered so much of the load in the last calendar year in terms of where he's been in terms of the PGA. He and Tiger obviously out in front, sticking their necks out a little bit. And he's talked about how he can't wait to get back to golf. And I can't believe that this is a week that he is thinking that I'm just back to golf, because I know we're hearing like, all right, it's overblown with the live drama and for all these guys. And like everyone's, dapping up DJ at the range and everyone's saying hi to Brooksy. But like, I don't think it's different for Rory. I think Rory is still like navigating kind of this dicey thing. He's not going up to some of these guys and saying hi. Like, I still feel that he's wearing that weight on top of obviously the career Grand Slam, which we kind of cross every year when we get here for him. Scotty just kind of has it all. When we think about how good he was last year, right? And at this time last year, he was just in the middle of an absolute heater. He's like over a half stroke better off the tee than he was last year for the full year. Yeah, again, it's scary. A small sample, but he's been unbelievable. And some of the stuff that it takes around here in terms of like the soft hands and strokes gained magic beans, I like to say, or strokes gained pine straw, like he has some of that Spiethian stuff in him where he just kind of scrambles his face off, but he has all the other elite stuff too. So like, God, it's short. Travis 7 is really short, but man, like I just don't see a spot where he is not very much in the mix come this weekend. So yeah, I'm willing to go there at 7. I was hoping we maybe swing the other way and we maybe get closer to 8s or 9s. Domestics right now, we're pretty much painted across the board at 7. Caesars is down to 5. Wow. So like they're kind of taking a stand there too.
Yeah. And the funny thing with Scheffler is he doesn't blow anybody away with his putter either. And he wins, right? Yeah. Like at the Players, he was 0.1 strokes gained putting. That's it. That's how dominant was he off the tee and how dominant he was with his approach, that when he missed the green, how dominant he was chipping the golf ball. So if his putter wakes up and goes +3 or 4, lights out.
Yeah.
It's over. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with Scotty Scheffler. Yeah. I mean, he's the obvious favorite. There's no question. I think the question for Rory, I tend to think, listening to Rory, watching Rory, when I saw him at the Players, he looked tired to me. I followed him in a practice round, got pretty close. He looked tired, and he played it. I feel like he's in a better spot now. And I don't think Rory's ever going to be in a spot mentally where he can just shut everything else off that's happening off the golf course. That's not the time we live in. That's not the role that he has, whether he likes it or not. He's out there as the face and the voice for the PGA Tour. It's interesting. We talked yesterday, Hunter and I, Hunter Mayhem, about, where is a PGA Tour representative maybe coming out and shouldering more of this? Ask me, and I'll give you the answer. And taking some of this weight off of Rory. And I even think Will Zalatoris was taking on some of it too before he got injured. So what scares me with Rory is the weather and the wind. That's what scares me. I think the rest of it, I feel okay with. I don't think this is like the best spot for Rahm. Obviously, he can win here. We know that. But I'm torn between Rory and Scheffler. I know Scheffler's the better bet, especially considering the weather coming in. Rory can tend to not be as productive, let's say, when the wind's blowing and maybe it's not 82 and the birds are chirping with the 5 miles an hour. So let's go to the next one here, because as we move down the board, I am excited about Spieth. He currently right now, he just dropped actually to 18. I got him at a better number than that. Cantlay at 20, Finau at 20. And then we get into Mr. Dustin Johnson at 22 and just under the radar JT currently at 22. Look, dirty it up. Let the wind blow. Added length off the tee is going to bode well for Jordan Spieth here. Okay, hit a few foul balls and still find it here. But let's go wind. Let's go wet. Let's go total instinctive golf. And Jordan Spieth, I think, is my dog, man. I think we might be looking at another Masters here for Jordan. I'm excited about him this week.
We have an innate ability to do this.
Yeah, we don't compare notes, folks.
We land in a similar spot. No. Spieth's my first bet. I bet him probably a month ago. I got a 20, probably you got her available as well. Like, the added distances, as you mentioned, I think only continues to help him. And he's been so close, right? Like, obviously we have the win. We have 4 other top 3 finishes. And, some of these probably given away. Look, last year was kind of weird. He didn't come in great form, and then obviously goes and wins Harbour Town the following week. Form is fickle for Jordan. I think he can pop anywhere. And I really like how he's been playing this calendar year, even though, again, like, short form isn't great, but like, I love Spieth here. I'm not a Spieth guy. I don't know the last time I bet him outright. I just think everything that we mentioned earlier, even with some of like the, magic bean stuff that Scotty can do here, Jordan just has it. He knows where to go. Like you said, he's not going to get penalized for the wayward drives a little bit. You could still find it. It's still opened up a little bit. So yeah, I love Jordan. Even at 18, I think it's the best bet. Like, again, if you can get into like some of those without the top 3 markets where you can bet someone like Jordan, for me, is hands down the play. I think even if I kind of had to go one, that you play one and dones and stuff like that, maybe you don't have the big 3 available. Jordan's definitely next guy off the board for me. So I thought he'd be maybe even in his own tier a little bit. I'm surprised that some of these other guys are as close as they are to him. I'm interested in them, but like not at the price. Like you mentioned too, I thought we were talking about weather getting wonky. Like, man, we've seen it again, referencing the Players and Southern Hills. Like, what Justin Thomas did in bad weather in those rounds was remarkable.
Yep.
And, again, like.
And the Players, remember what he did at the Players that year you referenced? Yeah.
Incredible. Yep. So I wish he was a little bit longer. We're seeing spiked putting weeks for JT, but like -4, like just insane, really bad putting. And I feel like some of that might be in his head. So like, he's obviously fared well here. We know tee to green. He just is one of the best in the world. Over the last 5-6 years, I think he's probably a little peeved that he's outside the top 10 in the official world golf ranking right now. Like, I would love to cheer on Justin Thomas. I just can't at that number. If we were pushing 30, which I thought we were going to see, I'd have been in. 2022 is still a little short for me on JT.
It's interesting when I look at this. I keep coming back. My eyes keep coming back to Finau because we know this place should fit Finau pretty well, right? I mean, he can nuke it off the tee. I think he overall is a better probably short game and putter than most people give him credit for. Although his short game's been a little bit not quite as sharp as of late. Who's ready to win that first major more, Cantlay or Finau? I think that would be an interesting debate between those two. Cantlay can be a mutt or two. I think he can kind of work himself through, some of these conditions. I do kind of go to JT though, as probably my favorite in these types of conditions, considering his track record and how well he's played. 22 is a little difficult to bite off, but we didn't give DJ much opportunity here. Do you just feel like DJ, he won it back in the fall when it was here, different golf course then? Do you feel like, because the strong narrative against the live golf players is they're not ready to compete. They don't have enough rounds, competitive rounds in them to come in sharp and beat a field like this. You think that's the case with DJ?
I think it's fair, right? Because we just don't have a lot of it. They haven't played 2 events. Some of these guys played on Asian tours, the DP World Tour and stuff in the last, going back to like January. So we just don't have a lot of competitive rounds. Someone like DJ, I think it matters a little bit less. He's just so damn good. I would, again, want it to be a little bit longer, but I understand why the market kind of bit down on that a little bit here in the last 48 hours or so since the reshuffle. So he would probably be my lean. There's another live guy that's a little further down the board that's interesting to me, and most of that for me is mostly a numbers play. I think DJ is the best of the live guys here for sure. It is interesting that, he was so close so many times. And then you think about how different that November one played comparatively. He obviously just nuked the course and it set the course record. So I can get behind it if someone could, sell me on it, because it's still Dustin Johnson. I just feel like he's just Teflon Don with all the other stuff. Like, I don't think he really cares about everything else that's going on. This is the event I'm playing this week. I played Orlando last week. I don't really care. I'm playing golf. I play golf over there. I'm just going to do it. And so, yeah, I get the case for DJ. I think he still felt like he was really close. I backed DJ and Brooks here last year. I thought they were really close coming in. DJ got a little bit going on the weekends. Brooks obviously didn't make the cut, but like, I still think that they have it in them to be the top tier in the world. Like, even though DJ's world golf ranking will continue to tell you that he is not that guy, it doesn't matter.
We'll get to Brooks here in a second. He's at 40 right now. I like Brooks. I watched a decent amount of Liv, and I was texting with his coach afterwards. And I got to tell you, like, I feel like he was hitting it, his swing, and he was hitting it as good as he was back in 19 with his driver. I mean, it just looked like autopilot, bombing it out there, long baby fade. He's healthy. The putter looked good. I can tell you, he's working as hard as he ever has right now. And I think Brooks is an interesting person. I give Brooks probably the best chance to win this from any of the Liv guys. I think Cameron Smith, who's at 35 right now, as we kind of work down the board, Cameron looks rusty to me. You know, his game doesn't look like it's ready to win the Masters. And even he admitted it in the press conference. Like, he's like, yeah, probably put the clubs away 1 to 2 weeks more than I should have in Australia. Just didn't quite get myself ready to go. Came in, I mean, just, yeah. And, and that's kind of the beef, right? Like, man, that's what the environment perhaps is creating, right? Is some of that complacency. And we saw DJ, I think, was probably a little more overweight than he has been in the first tournament. He looked better in Orlando. So, I think they're valid. It's valid critique.
I agree.
For these guys and even Cameron admitting it. Like, look, I just haven't played as much golf. My preparation hasn't been quite as sharp coming into this. So, as you down the board, Jason Day at 22, I can't go there with Jason in winning the Masters. We've been talking a lot about Jason and his play. Xander's interesting. Let me throw this. I was texting with someone that is out there on tour about Xander and in the know with him. His driver was really bad there for a couple of weeks. I think he cleaned it up a little bit at match play, but you look at how he drove the ball at the Players and Arnold Palmer. That was the worst driving weeks of his career back to back. -3. I mean, just terrible. And so match play, a little better. I think he ended up losing to Rory. I don't know, Rory. I'm worried about Xander, especially at 25. And I know Xander can be popular there.
Yeah, I mean, I always and they're playing different golf because actually it's the complete opposite of Patrick Cantley. But I always they're the same to me. It's like they fit everywhere. They play well everywhere. It's a matter of like winning and getting over the hump. Like now, Cantley is like it's a weapon off the tee. He's been fantastic with the driver. But yeah, the Xander stuff is enough for me to kind of keep it away. And we really, again, like we're hoping for a reshuffle on Monday with the odds boards. And we just didn't really get it. Like these guys are all still kind of clumped up around 20 and now, Cantley's under that in a lot of spots. Xander's out there a little bit longer. And I think that's probably because no one in the market's really biting based off of, the recent off the tee stuff. So yeah, again, would I be surprised? No, they're two of the top 10 players in the world. They have no holes in their game, really. They've fared decent here in the last handful of years at times. Xander, obviously, a couple of years ago, getting really close on Sunday. But, they're not interesting. One name I want to circle back to that you talked about quickly is Tony Finau. Okay. So I got on Finau at 29.
Oh, wow.
There are 25s still out there on Finau. We came in last year looking at the top 150 in the world. In the 6 months prior leading up to the event, he was 147th out of 150 in strokes gained putting. Strokes gained putting, noisy. We know that it's a little bit noisy relative to the other stats. But again, 6 months, pretty large sample. He is struggling on the greens. Last 6 months now, he's 15th in the top 150 in the world in strokes gained putting. We've seen 3 wins since he was here last. And then on top of that, it's not just the putting stuff. He is gaining on approach in a massive way. Last year, 2022, was his best mark in his career at 0.74 strokes per round over the field. He's up a half stroke on that comparatively. So he's a half stroke better on approach than his best career mark ever. And again, like as you mentioned, he can bomb it with the best of them. if he's running hot with the putter, he's familiar here. We know, a couple of top tens here, including his debut on basically a busted ankle. I don't know. I just feel like he got really close in match play. I think maybe saved himself where he lost there in that playoff with Moronk, and I forget who else was in there. But yeah, I mean, he's just trending, and I think he fits really well here. And I think he's over maybe some of the bugaboo stuff of, Tony can't close. And I know those weren't like huge field events. I mean, one of them was, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like he fits well here, and I love the number at 29. Now 25, I think is still viable, and that's still out there for folks.
Yeah, I mean, newsflash, Tony can putt, right? I mean, you got to put that narrative. Yep. And he's better situationally. The wins, 3M Open, Rocket Mortgage were huge. Then he wins at Houston. I like Finau too. He's 19th at the Players. Hit his irons great. Putting was fine. Wow, Tony Finau winning a green jacket would be something, wouldn't it? That would be pretty cool. That would be a really, really cool moment to see a guy like that win the green jacket.
I mean, we have a new custom stats database on Betsperts Golf where you can plug in all the stats that you think matter. We have some stats that aren't out there, in terms of things our competition has. You can get really granular. And everything that I popped in here in the last 50 rounds, Tony Finau is first in my modeling. In top 10, basically everything. So, I mean, sometimes you have to kind of trust it a little bit, and I want to give him and back him with my money there. I just think he's playing well enough, and I think he can do it. So would love to see it. He's fun to root for, easy to root for, and sometimes that's it too, right? I mean, we can break ties with guys that we like to cheer for, and I think he's a pretty easy guy to root for.
Max Homa was interesting, 28. I mean, here's a guy that has clearly taken the next step as a professional golfer. I mean, competing, winning. We know situationally when he gets in the hunt, he can put you away, but he hasn't bode well in major championships. And so I'm curious to see if Max is ready to take the next step, get in contention, and does he have the game to win at Augusta? He's had some experience, not a lot of traction. He hasn't played extremely well. Seems like an awful big jump for Max to go from not being relevant to actually winning a green jacket, at least in my eyes. I mean, Morikawa at 28. This will be a stage for Morikawa to try out the new short game and putting techniques that he's been working on. I've been an advocate of it. I think it looks great. I think when you look into the 20s here, as we've mentioned, Day, Schauffele, Homa, Morikawa, I would lean to Morikawa, I think, in just obviously he can get it done with the driver. His iron game's so good. I like what I see around the green and putting. I think he is going to have a big season this year. Cameron Young missed a cut last year. How much does he improve upon that? 35-1. Cameron Young seems like he made like 15 birdies a round at match play.
Yeah.
How much does he improve on his first year last year missing the cut, do you think?
I mean, this profiles as such a perfect fit for Cam Young. Now, again, what he did last year and what he had a ton of success in has been a little bit different, because last year it was just strokes gained off the tee, white hot with the putter.
Yeah.
It's been kind of struggling with the putter for the last 6 months or so. But again, as you mentioned, like, it's good to see maybe some instant, buyback here with the caddy change. That seemed to work. I mean, we know Webb was a great putter, and maybe there's something there of being able to get some help from Paul reading the greens. But he obviously, his number just got massively deflated while he went white hot at match play. So, you lost the best of the number there. So now he's kind of in a group with some other guys that I think are maybe just a little bit above him in class still, in terms of just wanting to see it a little bit more, rep wise and stuff like that. So he's interesting to me. If you got an early number on him or something closer to 40, that's fine. I think he'd be interesting there, because again, he can hit at an absolute mile, and if he can get a house. I mean, I've had some success backing him in the past. We've talked about it. Like, yes, I think you make great points. He is not the same golfer that has really stubbed his toe, not only here but at other majors. But when you kind of look at what has happened in the last 8 with Max Homa, again, everywhere except off the tee. Off the tee is kind of flat comparatively to last year. So I just think he's a different guy when you think about where he's won, and who he's beat. Right? If you win at Riv, you win at Quail Hollow, you win at really big golf courses. Those are great fields. So I know that, the history matters here, but he's walked it. He's been here. He's played it a little bit. So yeah, he doesn't have the great finish that we would love, but he's priced down. At least I got him at 32. He's priced down kind of off the tier that I think he is in terms of where his world golf ranking is. I think he should be closer to the JT, Xander, Cantley group, and he's priced a little bit further down. So, getting him north of 28, I would say, I still think is a great number. And, again, baseline putting is really high there too. So I'm not really worried about him being able to navigate the bent grass.
Feels like a PGA, maybe even a US Open for Max.
Yeah, I got that too. Got that. Those are in the bag. Those are gone. The LA one, I think, 35, 40s. Those are kind of cooked. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. I'm going to probably lay off Max this week. As we get down into the 40s, I'm excited about Koepka. I'm not real excited about Hovland at 40. As far as winning, Zalatoris has to be the biggest question mark. I mean, here's a young man that has just blitzed this place his first 2 years. Damn near won it, finished tied for second. And where's his game at? Boy, it's a bit of a mystery. I'm friends with his camp. They don't share a whole lot other than that we're moving the right way. I know that the goal for Zalatoris' camp was to get him 100% by Augusta. Along the way, we've seen some issues with the putter. So, where's Will at this point? I'm probably going to stay away from that. Sungjae at 45. And there's Matsuyama again at 45, who showed some signs, kind of that sluggish start. Then he gets it going on Saturday, kind of runs up there on Sunday, and then he makes triple. Just feels like too many mistakes for Matsuyama right now. He's kind of the motor's it's working. It's like you can hear it, and the boat's moving. And then it kind of cuts out. Kind of like your router every once in a while, just cut. That's like, that's like, that's what I kind of feel like with Matsuyama. Just one too many mistakes, perhaps, to put on a second green jacket.
So I was encouraged by the fact that he went and teed it up and showed up. Had a nice, I think it was either second round, third round at Valero. Because again, he could have just gone over to Augusta, got some swings in. He obviously is familiar with it. He could play, some of the holes that have had some changes and stuff like that. But he went over and competed, and I like to see that. He's having his best career strokes gained putting performance again so far. We're only through a couple of months, but he's obviously had some success here in the past. We know he's been nails tee to green historically, slipping back a little bit, and I think that's kind of what you're talking about. But I still think he's consistently above average. It's getting close to the range where I'd consider maybe firing, getting closer to 50 on him. The Zalatoris one is also flirting with 50 as well, which is absolutely stunning to me. But I get it. We're in this social media bubble, and everyone saw the putt at the match play now with the uneasy take back and through. We saw almost like a Charles Barkley type swing with Zalatoris on the putting green, and it can be hard to stomach. There's obviously a confidence level there, but again, when you look at where he's been, he's putted really well here. He's actually statistically from long range, 25 feet out, one of the best putters on tour. Lag putting, and that matters here. You have to really avoid the three putts. You have to be able to lag putt at an elite rate here to leave yourself those makeable tap ins, and that's kind of where he's been a little bit less steady. But again, what's going to happen here is if he gets off to a good start on Thursday, his live number is going to resemble guys that are at 20 to 1. 25 to 1. His live number is not going to resemble someone that opened at 45, just because of who he is and what'll happen. I worry that we're overrating maybe one clip, and maybe the mental piece that came with that. I think we're maybe through the health concerns. I don't know. He's just so damn good. It's a guy that I back so often. I don't know what the number is. I think at 50, I'm probably firing. I would want to get into it if it got close there live and he started to look really good. I would love to get your thoughts on go a little bit longer for me on Vic, your kind of out on. And I know the recent forms have been really good, and we know short game matters around here. We know that's his kind of bugaboo, though he has been pretty good scrambling in majors. And again, that's a small sample and probably pretty noisy, but times when it's mattered, pretty good. But again, like, I get it. He's priced up there.
Yeah.
With some big dogs.
I think the whole thing with Vic, I feel like he's still kind of searching for some things, just, internally leaving his coach, Jeff Smith. I've talked about this in the pod over the last couple weeks. He's always played kind of good through the Florida swing, right? Obviously he was 10th at Arnold Palmer, 3rd at Players. He was about that or better a year ago. He's went through these short game changes. The technique, I think, looks better. I still think he's indecisive in how the ball is going to leave the face, the launch and the spin. And so, look, Vic's a world-class player. We know that. He can absolutely dominate you with the driver and the irons. I just feel like around the greens, it's still not as clean as we'd like to see. Now you go to Augusta where that becomes elevated. I don't think he looked good at the match play at all. It's more of a mental kind of, he's chasing right now something. That's my feel. And I don't know if he's in that complete peace of mind right now and fully comfortable with what he's doing and where he's at to go out and play that kind of instinctive golf and have the short game to win. It just still feels like he's chasing it. And I don't know what it is. I was shocked when he left his coach, Jeff Smith, because he took them, they were number 3 in the world and moving in the right direction. Everything was going good. And all of a sudden it's like, now what? That frightens me a little bit when a player decides to do that. Because then it tells me they're chasing. And I think when you're chasing, I think your confidence can get very, very thin. That line of having confidence versus not, you can live a little too much shot to shot, and you compound that with the short game. And is that enough to win? I don't know. Now in saying that, look, Vic could go out and hit every fairway and every green and not have to chip, right? That's how good of a ball striker he is. He can dominate you from a ball striking standpoint. We saw it with Corey Connors, which is a good segue to Connors. Mm-hmm. I talked about yesterday, Connors around the green, short vanilla chips, Ryan. It's borderline yip. It's like, oh my, I have to look the other way. Like this is, and yet he wins, right? Because he's that good of a ball striker. And his putting was good enough. So look, you don't have to have a great short game. You can steer around it, which I think Connor's team does. I think they do kind of steer around that weakness and that vanilla chip. And I'm sure even to some degree, I bet you Hovland's probably even doing that a little bit. And you have that kind of week where, man, I just pierced it 4 straight days, made some putts, chips fell my way. I was on the right end of the, of the cut or of the, the tee times. And everything just comes together. But in this field, I'm probably gonna pass on Hovland. But to Connors, let's go to there for a minute, because he's down here at 50, 55. Yeah, 50.
Look at that course 50. History. That course history for Connors here.
It's crazy. And I mean, like the guy, his short game is his weakness. And now we go to Augusta where you got to have all these short game shots off these tight lies. And he's in the top 10 every single year. Again, speaks to his ball strike.
Yeah, Rick, if you just are like mashing it and sticking it, you don't really have to worry too much about having to scramble. So, yeah, I mean, obviously interesting that the form is peaked. Wasn't really great heading into match play. Played pretty well there, and then obviously parlayed it at a place that he loves. You mentioned before we got started, you should buy a home on that course. Just right. Hey, go there every year and win. I don't know, it's fine. It's worked for guys in the past. Like you just, hey, this is your event. I don't know. I'm not going to bet him outright to go back to back, but man, he sure seems like a nice top 20 bet. Considering that, the top 10 pieces have been falling into place. So you're still going to get a decent number there. As you mentioned too, and that reminded me when you were talking about stuff that he's with Hovland and thinking about it a little bit. We've even heard Jason Day talk about that too, where he doesn't necessarily trust it yet late on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And he's interesting because when you look at the recent form, he's been incredible. The finishing positions have been great, but he hasn't really actually been in the mix at all on a Sunday. As well as he's performed, he has all these top 10s and top 20s. he's not been like final group on a Sunday or like, oh, Jason Day heads into the final round as the favorite. Like, so
good point. Yeah.
And the number's really short. Like you're paying for him as if he has bagged a couple of wins so far this year. And I like it. He's played well here. Everything that he's doing fits this course. I think we're just paying top of the line tax on Jason Day based off of what's happened so far. So like finishing position bet, yeah. Matchups for sure. There would be definitely different ways to get Jason Day on the card, but I'm not paying that outright price, especially when he's telling us with his own mouth that he's not sure that he trusts that swing late on a Sunday afternoon. I can't imagine he does with a green jacket on the line.
All right. So it's Augusta. We're getting down here into the 50s, 60s. We know that now it's becoming a little more unlikely, right? Unless we go back to the Zach Johnson days of +1. Is that what we're looking at this week, where it gets so wet and windy that who knows, right? It's kind of like reminds me when one of my former students won the Players, Fred Funk. The weather got weird and the wind was howling, and all of a sudden he's hanging around. He's like, I might win this thing, coming up 18 and he makes the putt. It very well could be that, right? And so as we start working down the board in this weather, it just kind of opens up the door, I think, a little bit more. I'm excited about Brooks. I'm excited about Neiman a little bit too. I kind of like Neiman here. 55. I could see Neiman just putting on a ball striking exhibition, doing enough with the putter. He can hit some short game shots, and he seems to be kind of focused. The one thing, look, about these live guys, two things. One is more of them should be in the press room, number one. Now, I don't know if that was because of Augusta not inviting them, right? Which would have been a shame. If you're going to let them play, then get them in the press room.
For sure.
Right? Because we want to hear from them. I don't know if that's the case. Or was it because they were invited and they said no? And that would be unfortunate too, right? Because get your ass in the press room.
Yeah. Sounds like that's what happened with Phil, right? He declined. Yeah.
Right. So either way, like which one is it? And it's Bush League, whatever it is. So with that said, number two, I think these players are coming in highly motivated. Now, that doesn't take away from the rust that I think a lot of them will have, that we talked about. But I do think that the narrative of, okay, you play on live, it's not as competitive a tour, you don't play as much, and it's gonna your skills are gonna diminish over time, and you're gonna come in here and you're not gonna compete. Trust me, that's weighing top of mind a lot of these guys, and that's motivated them. Like they're working hard. I'm telling you right now, Brooks Koepka's working hard.
Yeah, right, Brooks.
I'm telling you right now, Patrick Reed's working hard. Like there's a lot of guys working hard. I think there's a lot of guys that are not, and admittedly, but there are a lot of guys that are working hard. I think Neiman's working hard. I could see Neiman coming in here and making some noise. So I'll go down as far as Neiman at 55. And if you made me do it, I'd give you Mitchell at 90. I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah. I don't hate it, right? Look, total driving, he leads the tour. He's been outstanding off the tee. We know that matters. We know that he's comfortable here in the Southeast. We know the putter can get into form too. So like to win it, I think it's a stretch, but I also I'm with you though. Like I do think he's interesting. So like if you can get, and this isn't a 1-for-1 correlation in terms of how the derivatives play at Augusta, because we're talking about 88 person fields. When you eliminate the Sandy Lyles, Larry Mizes, and some of the amateurs, you're really kind of looking at like 70, 72 guys. So you don't have necessarily a perfect derivative in terms of like finishing position bets, but like where Mitchell's going to be priced because of where his outright number is, you're going to get a pretty good number for him to finish 30 top 40. So I like him quite a bit. I am 100% with you on Neiman. And again, this isn't a perfect fit, but because we know, again, we talked about the top course history matters more here than anywhere else. And some of these other guys have had some success. But last week heading into Orlando had 3 guys at the top of the board with the same price. Cam Smith, 12-1, DJ 12-1, Joaquin Neiman, 12-1. Now, when we look at them on the Masters boards, there's a massive discrepancy in where DJ and Cam Smith are in terms of where Neiman is on the board. And there's 70s out there on Neiman, even better than the 55s if you shop around a little bit in domestic. So, he hasn't had great history here last year, but he played last year with Tiger. Right on Thursday, it was just 2 and pretty well. So, I don't know, you can withstand what happened last year with Tiger coming back here in that place. And again, he went out and won it at Riv. You can win at Riv in fields at that track. I don't know, like it's not necessarily a corollary course to Augusta, but like it tells me that you can compete at basically any long and hang. So like, yeah, Neiman down there is probably the longest I would consider. There are some, like, depending on where you can get down. Justin Rose is interesting to me as well. He's probably not far off from like Mitchell to, it's a little steep. There are 66s. It's just a little, I don't know. I don't think he wins. I don't either. I don't think he wins, but I think he plays pretty well. It played well here historically with way worse form coming in. So he's probably hurt a little bit too by the weather, but like, I don't know. I don't want to overweight some of these like weather Euros. Like Lowry T3 last year here, his form coming in last year is way different than the form that he's bringing in this year.
Can't putt. Lowry,
and even the irons aren't as dialed in. So like, I'm not really going to fall in love with. I don't want to make weather specific plays. It's a tiebreak at the top if you're on JT and you're like, hey, listen, look what we've seen from JT. I like JT anyway, so that's different than firing at Lowry, who's not necessarily on my radar. But then I'm not going to overweight the one great year. And again, the form last year was just tremendous coming in. So it was not surprising finish for him. So that's kind of it for me. Like there are other guys down here that I think are interesting in other ways, but in terms of outright betting, outright wins, we're kind of at the breaking point.
I think the soft conditions help Mitchell. I think I'm really encouraged by his growth with his short game.
Mm-hmm.
He has shown the ability to have some spike putting weeks, +5. Well, he just did that at the Players, actually.
Yep.
He didn't drive it as well there. It all have to come together for him in a kind of weird kind of way, right? But I do think if I'm Keith Mitchell, I bomb it off the tee. Soft conditions, I think, is going to help his iron game. My short game's getting better. My putting's been pretty good. I'm in Georgia, Southern guy. I don't know.
I don't hate it.
That's my. I'll probably sprinkle just a fraction on it, and maybe he's a shot or two back on Sunday, and like the wind's howling, and I don't know. Something weird's going to have to happen, right, for him to hold off Scotty Scheffler or that kind of deal.
I think sometimes you have to have the mentality in outright betting too, that they're all just lost bets anyway, because it's so hard to do.
It's so hard to do.
So like when you're that far down the board, if you've handicapped a guy like that, you can't talk about Keith Mitchell like this. We have it on record, and then you don't.
Oh no, I'm going to sprinkle it. Oh yeah,
you don't make the bet.
No, yeah.
You can't do it. So I have no problem with it. He'll be on the betting card for me for sure.
Well, that makes me feel better that you feel better. You feel good about Neiman. So we're pretty aligned again. It's amazing. Last time we were probably as far apart as we've been, but now we're back to our old trick again. And we don't compare notes. Final question. Tiger makes the cut or misses it?
It makes the cut. I think we're actually on the other side of that now, right? Like the ball striking was so good at the Genesis. Now everything we thought was going to happen, right? Oh, even on a bad leg, you can chip and putt in your backyard, and he couldn't do anything at the Genesis. And again, of course, he's not historically played really well at. So I don't know. I just think was close enough to maybe consider playing the Players. I feel like he's in a different spot physically than he was last year. I think that the opportunities to actually win this are probably trickling away if they're not completely gone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think he makes the cut. I would take that play. Whereas last year, that was obviously the big debate. We hadn't seen him in a while, and was really encouraged to see him out there. And then again, what he did, he had a lot of those low stingers, and rolled it out there a lot at the Genesis. Yep. Now, it doesn't mean that he can't play it differently here, but again, like, who knows this place better that's teeing up this week, other than, maybe Freddie Couples or something like that. It's definitely Tiger Woods. So yeah, make the cut. He's in it.
Yeah. I don't like I think the soft conditions certainly hurt him.
Sure.
There's no question about that. He can't chase it out there as much. That little bullet fade that we were talking about with Mito. Tiger is playing with Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele, 10-18 on Thursday. So he's going morning, afternoon. There's Bubba. He's won it twice. He's going at 9:48. He's playing with Mateo Hernandez de Oliveira.
It's a big boy.
That is a big boy. I forgot Thomas Peters is in the field. Okay. He's playing with Mackenzie Hughes and Shane Lowry. They put Patrick Reed, 924 A&M with Adam Svensson and Sahith Thagala. They should have put him with VJ and Sandy Lyles. What they should have done.
You get a nice Canuck, and Sahi seems like a really nice kid. It's probably one of the softer landing spots for Patty Reed, that's for sure.
Phil Mickelson's with Tom Hoagie and Siwoo Kim, 1224.
Oh man, with the side games that they're going to have going.
Oh wow,
Hoagie and Phil together. Jeez.
That was smart. Ooh, I love this one. Dustin Johnson, Corey Connors, and Justin Rose, 112. That's good.
That's fun.
I like that. 2:00. Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau.
Ooh, two of the winners right there.
Yep. And then how about they put Sam Burns with Rory and Tom Kim? We haven't talked about Tom Kim. Kind of cooled off as of late.
Yeah, first time around the track. And I think, in terms of the elite guys, and he's obviously not elites, but, distance is an issue for him, right? So I understand why he won where he won. To see him do it on one of these tracks we're going to have to see it a little bit first before I'm paying for it.
And we haven't mentioned Bryson DeChambeau, Francisco Molinari, JT Poston. Bryson makes the cut or misses.
He's got to miss the cut. It's been bad. Like when you look at some of these, again, we're talking about a 48-man, 54-hole exhibition, no cut events, and these guys are shockingly consistently finishing in the 30s. It's not great. So it's hard to think that a spot where Bryson has historically struggled, and obviously foot and mouth syndrome when he said this is a par 67 for him a couple of years ago, I don't know. He hasn't figured it out here. And I think he's obviously trying to figure his game out now with the reshifting of his body and distance and all those things. He just has really made a mess of the greens here. He's probably, I haven't seen the price on it, but I would probably want to back him to miss the cut.
Oh, they did my boy Mitchell dirty. They put him with Sergio at 912.
All right. Well, he'll be the belle of the ball of the group. He'll, the gallery will be definitely pulling for him because, Sergio, the more you look at his course history here, we know he won. It seemed more like an outlier than anything. He's not really performed exceptionally well here outside of the year that he won. So
how about this one, 1042, JT, John Rahm, Cameron Young.
That's a good follow. Yeah.
Cameron Young can sling it. He can throw it up in the air.
Yeah. I wish I would have got a better number on it. If I could have been quicker to act, they were 60s before match play on Cam Young.
Wow. 1054 Hideki, Cam Smith, Sung JM. Mito played good last week in Orlando.
He did.
That's tough to figure out there. Crooked Cat. I'm sorry, but that's not a championship golf course.
I had a friend who's played it a couple times and was really surprised that they were teeing it up there. Yeah.
All right. He's the man. Ryan Noonan, Betspert. Betsperts Golf, right? At betsperts.com.
Yep. I got lots of free content up over there at Betsperts Golf. I did a player's guide that literally blurb on every single guy in the field, how he got here, recent history at the Masters. Check that out. We have some other great stuff. Ron Kloss at PGA Splits 101, breaking down slope and putting history here, bent over their career baseline. Great stuff from Ron as always. And yeah, $20 for a month. We have, like I said, a new stats database tool. If you want to poke around, some of the other places that have those don't come with picks, don't come with Discord, don't come with content. So I think we have a pretty good offer for folks over at Betsperts Golf. All right, check it out. Good stuff, Ryan. I really appreciate it. Let's go get a W. Love it, buddy. As always, appreciate you.